Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rux, I'm a Western tropical astrologer, and today we're going to be talking about the full moon in Libra coming up on the 6th of April at 4:34 GMT time in the morning. Therefore you can adjust for your own time zone. This full moon is happening at 16 degrees 7 minutes of Libra. So if you've got in your natal chart planets, angles, important points such as the North Node around 16 degrees of cardinal signs, you're likely to feel this full moon the most. Those of you who don't have planets, angles around 16 degrees of cardinal signs, you may still notice the influence of the full moon, but you may not necessarily feel it as strongly, maybe on a personal level. What are the cardinal signs? Well, Libra, Aries, Capricorn, and Cancer. So the cardinal signs correspond with the beginning of each season in the Northern Hemisphere. What is this full moon about? First and foremost, I strongly recommend, if you have the bandwidth, I would recommend looking back at what was going on in your life around the 25th of September, maybe a few days before, a few days after, last year in 2022. Why? Because this full moon is happening 6 months later, and it is likely to bring to your attention similar topics, areas of interest that were on your radar roughly 6 months ago. So this full moon is a culminating point. Generally, full moons are a peak. They represent a peak. They represent a culminating point, a culminating moment. This full moon is likely to represent the culmination of some of the themes that came to your attention 6 months ago. You may experience the closure or the fulfillment, the peak of a project maybe, of something that began around the 25th of September of 2022. Now, because this full moon is happening in Libra, obviously relationships are going to be front and center. And this makes me laugh a little bit because someone left a comment on this is my Mars in Gemini coming up, right? So you folks, you got to remember, I love a good debate. So someone wrote a comment on, I think it was my April horoscope. And they said, "Oh, why is everything about relationships?" I'm like, dude, are you joking? Do you live alone on an island? And if not, then how can you ask this? And when I say relationships, people immediately jump to the conclusion that I'm talking about romantic relationships. And that is completely inaccurate and not true. We've got relationships with all the people in our life, starting with parents, children, co-workers, yes, life partners, business partners. But relationships refer to interactions, connections that we've got with people in general in life. So when I say relationships today, please do not narrow your vision and think, and I'm not saying everyone would do that, but some people might do that. Don't narrow your view and think, she must be talking about romance. Again, romance. What if I don't care about romance? I'm like, yeah, but surely you must have some people in your life that you interact with, that you've got a relationship with. Friends, for instance. So, little rant over. This full moon is likely to put the spotlight on significant relationships in our life. It's also likely to put the spotlight on, how should we call them? Themes of cooperation, collaboration, compromise, mediation, finding the middle ground, finding the middle path, mirroring others. So kind of like seeing ourselves reflected in others and others seeing themselves reflected in our own behavior. At a collective level, of course, what happens at a collective level may not immediately seem impactful on an individual level, but in the grand scheme of things, everything that happens at a collective level does impact the individual. And I dare say, even what happens on an individual level can have ripple effects over time and impact the collective. So at a collective societal level, this full moon may bring with it some sort of pact, some sort of agreement, some sort of like, I want to say ceasefire. Now, I'm not necessarily referring to military operations, although that could very well be in the spotlight. It may feel like people that have been fighting for something tooth and nail are finally getting part of what they wanted, but maybe not everything that they asked for. Because Libra, you've got to remember, Libra is the sign of finding the middle ground. So the middle ground can be found at the time of this full moon, but everyone on both sides may need to compromise. The good news is that this full moon is going to be disposited, is going to be ruled by Venus and Taurus, Venus in domicile, right? Because Venus rules Libra. And Venus is going to be in a harmonious aspect with Neptune. So I do see people making concessions. I do see people being a lot more malleable and flexible. And I also see the agreements that are agreed upon, the agreements that are likely to be reached around this time, they can be very long lasting and enduring, very, very possibly. Even though, obviously later this month, Mercury goes retrograde in Taurus. So the details, the minutiae, the terms of agreements may go through a process of like renegotiation, back and forth. I don't know, how should I call it? There could be some terms that are flagged and that people kind of like get hung up on, and they say, no, actually, I don't agree on this anymore. But initially, and how should I put it? The Mercury retrograde, yes, it can bring to our attention contracts, documents that need to be revisited, but that doesn't mean that once they are revisited, they won't be long lasting and they won't kind of like usher in a long period of stability. They probably will, but alas, there might be some back and forth kind of conversations and discussions. Anyway, going back to the full moon. Long-term collaborations, yes, very likely, very possibly. Also, some people getting paid after or getting something that they asked for in terms of economic rewards, maybe in terms of salaries and so on. I do see that likely to happen, even if it's, I repeat, even if it may not be exactly as much as they asked for. Full moons are also times to look at our life and ask ourselves, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to release? So it might be worth looking at your relationship sector and asking yourselves, is there anything in this relationship, in this collaboration, that is no longer serving us? Do we need to reconfigure the terms of our contract, the terms of our agreement? If the answer is yes, go ahead, do it. That's my recommendation. There's also a minor grand trine in the sky at the time of the full moon, a very harmonious aspect pattern between Mars in Cancer, Mercury in Taurus, and Saturn in Pisces. So I do see people kind of like feeling like they have obtained some of the results that they fought for, and this is likely to have a long-term impact upon their mental and emotional well-being, and upon, let's call it, their sense of security and stability. So I like it. I like this full moon. I have to tell you folks, I really do. I really do. Now, before we dive into the update for each of the 12 zodiac signs, I did want to remind folks, especially those of you who are new to my channel, that I work with clients one-to-one. I am a full-time consulting astrologer. So if you would like me to analyze your natal chart, to dive into the year ahead together in such a way that it is personalized, that takes into account the entirety of your natal chart, that is the most accurate and granular type of forecast that you can get. If you would also like to explore compatibility with someone in your life, and by the way, for this, we do need the permission of the other person to look into their chart. If you would like to explore locations around the world and how your chart gets activated based on various different places that you may want to consider living or traveling to, I do that in my private practice with clients, in my one-to-one work with clients. I generally recommend starting off with the natal chart, but in case you have had a natal chart analysis in the past from an astrologer, then obviously we can dive into different topics. You can find me on my website, which is writteninthestars-astrology.com. That is writteninthestars-astrology.com. And you can go straight to the services section. My apologies, I'm not breathing very well. Sometimes I do have these times when I'm experiencing a little bit of challenges with breathing because I have a deviated septum. So in case someone is kind of wondering, why is she breathing so funny? I do apologize, especially for those of you who are listening to this in the audio version only. That is the reason why my voice or my breathing might sound a little bit funny. So forgive me, I apologize in advance. Let's dive into the update for each of the 12 zodiac signs. And folks, please listen to the update for your rising sign if you know your rising sign, because most general horoscopes such as this are built with the rising sign in mind, not the sun sign. Now, if you don't know your rising sign, then of course you can listen to the sun sign update, but I did want to flag this from the very beginning. By the way, one more announcement before we dive into the update for each of the 12 zodiac signs. If you want to work with me one-to-one, I'm currently taking bookings at the moment when I'm filming this for the second half of May. Aries suns and Aries risings. What does this full moon look like for you? Well, it's obviously putting the spotlight onto your relationship sector, especially for Aries risings, because Libra falls in your 7th house of relationships. So you are likely to reach some sort of a culminating point, some sort of a culminating moment in the relationship sector, I would say. Some of you may feel like you have found your person. Some of you may feel like you're finally kind of on the same page, I'd say, with a partner in your life. Now, they could be a romantic partner, but they could also be a business partner, especially since Venus, the ruler of this full moon, is going to be in your 2nd house of income. So you may sign a collaboration agreement, a contract with someone that you're likely to work with, and I dare say that the collaboration is probably going to be quite fruitful from a financial perspective. You may also feel like someone's coming into your life, maybe an advisor or a consultant, maybe a recruiter, and they bring in a very attractive offer from a financial perspective. It also feels like this could be a time when, with partners in your life, be them romantic or business partners, you agree on how to move forward with something, with a topic that maybe was a little bit of a sore spot for you, and maybe you felt like you weren't heard, or you didn't have as strong a voice up until this point. You may also agree with a partner to spend money on something. Last but not least, it is also very possible that you might just have a very nice time together with your partner, together with someone that you're in a relationship with. It could be something that you're willing to spend money on. So maybe you decide to take them out or treat them to a nice dinner or something like that. But it genuinely feels like it's a really enjoyable getaway. I want to say, you may not have necessarily been in the most kind of peaceful or collaborative state of mind up until this full moon in the past maybe couple of weeks, but now it may feel like the person who you're with is hearing and is listening to what you have to say, and is also offering a lot of comfort and emotional reassurance, my dear Aries. Again, from a business partnership perspective, I like this. It does seem to be a very auspicious partnership that is taking shape, that is taking place. You may also feel like things are settling a little bit at home. So I'm liking this full moon. If you are a Taurus sun or a Taurus rising, especially a Taurus rising, this full moon in Libra is activating your axis of work and service. Some of you could be getting a job offer. Some of you could be wrapping up an important project work-wise, maybe something that you've been working on in the past 6 months, maybe since September, since the end of September of last year. It's also very possible that themes that came up work-wise to your attention last year around the 25th of September, they might come back to your attention around the time of this full moon. And it does feel like there's a solution for maybe something that has caused some issues and maybe has given you headaches, or maybe has given you I don't want to say sleepless nights, but maybe yes, maybe some sleepless nights, possibly. Some of you might quit your job around this time, which is very possible. If you do quit your job, it does feel like you're doing this wholeheartedly. It's like, yes, I realize that my time here is done. There could also be an exciting job offer making its way to you, an opportunity to collaborate with a friend or with a group of people. If you are socially active in a work environment, so if you're attending like a work conference or if you're organizing an event, it's probably going to turn out quite well. So people might have a lot of positive feedback to give to you, my dear Taurians. You might also feel like you are solving around this time and you can breathe easily. You're like, yes, this is done. A health-related issue. If you are a Gemini sun or a Gemini rising, this full moon on the 6th of April, and it's active 3 days before, 3 days after, is activating your 5th house of enjoyment and of children. So you may have a really fun time, a really good time, a really enjoyable time, I dare say, my dear Geminis. You could be celebrating something together with your friends. You could also feel like something that was causing maybe anxiety in regards to children, especially for those of you who have kids. You might feel like, yes, this has been solved. We have a solution. Some of you might also wrap up a creative project that you've been working on behind the scenes. It also feels like you have more clarity as to what's in terms of what's going to make you happy, what's likely to make you happy for the long run. So what's going to fulfill you on a personal level. And you may become a little bit aware of some of your blind spots around this time, my dear Geminis. I would, of course, also look back at what was going on in your life around the 25th of September last year, especially in the area of hobbies, passions, creative projects, and children. For those of you who are dating, this could also be a very, very romantic time in terms of dating. I dare say there could be some sort of a connection work-wise between you and the person that you're dating. Maybe they work in the same industry and you realize how much you have in common. Cancer suns and Cancer risings. 6th of April, 3 days before, 3 days after, a full moon is activating your 4th house of home. Something is culminating at home in your home and living situation, real estate situation. Maybe you have found your dream home. Maybe you're moving into a new home. Maybe parents have some sort of announcement to make. That they finally completed something that was a goal and an objective for them. You could also welcome people in your home around this time. Maybe be the host, my dear Cancerians. Welcome friends in your home. And if you have been experiencing any sort of like conflict between you and a parent, or if there was any sort of conflict in your own family, it does seem to fizzle out and it feels like peace is reached somehow. It does feel like you're seeing the other person's perspective. If you were the one involved in the conflict, or family members that were involved in the conflict, they find a way to cooperate and to work together. Some of you could also I dare say, travel to see family around this time. And it may feel like, oh, this is what we've been waiting for. Finally, we are together in person and we are getting along much better, and disagreements are being hashed out, and all is well again at home. My dear Leos, Leo suns and Leo risings, 6th of April, 3 days before, 3 days after, this full moon is activating your axis of travel and learning. So you could be traveling somewhere, I dare say especially short distance. You could be traveling for work-related purposes. Maybe you have like a project out of town that you need to attend to. If that is the case, it will probably turn out quite well, if you ask me. And financially, it may feel like it's very, very worth it. Some of you may also pass some sort of exam, or you may feel like you have mastered a skill, a technical skill, or a skill that needs to be applied in your day-to-day work in some shape or form. You might also have like feeling of victory and success when it comes to buying or selling something. So if you've been looking for a buyer for something that you wanted to like sell, that you wanted to get rid of, you might find the right person. If you're looking to purchase something, it's possible that someone will find you, and it's like, hey, I've got exactly what you need. It also feels like if you do have some sort of educational success around this time, which is very possible, especially if you're involved in anything of an educational nature, this is helping you advance career-wise, and it's giving you the confidence to move forward career-wise, my dear Leos. Those of you who have siblings might also get together with siblings, spend some time with your brothers and sisters, and it may really feel like an enjoyable time where you discuss maybe sensitive topics, and there is a sense of, I see things more clearly now that I've opened up about this thing that was on my mind. Virgo suns and Virgo risings. This full moon is activating your financial axis, so money is going to be on your mind a lot. I do see you maybe receiving a significant payment, very likely, very possibly. I would also recommend looking back around the 25th of September to see what was going on financially in your life around this time. It does feel like a culminating point, a culminating moment financially, if you ask me. A culminating point that you seem to be quite happy with. You could be receiving like a very generous or very attractive offer financially, and you're like, yeah, I like this. This might work. This might very well work. For those of you who are looking to get a raise, you might get good news in this direction. Those of you who maybe were looking for a job, it does feel like there's someone in your life who, it could be a recruiter, it could be a partner, it could be an old collaborator. And there seems to be someone that brings auspicious news connected with finances. You seem to be in a good place financially, Virgos, and you could also get rid of some debt around this time. So maybe clear some debt if you had any sort of like credit card debt or something of that type. You also seem to have a little bit of an aha moment, maybe because you realize how other people see you. You seem to have an aha moment in terms of how valuable you are, my dear Virgos, and how valued you are by others as well, I'd say. Libra suns and Libra risings, you're obviously in the spotlight at the time of this full moon because it is happening in your sign. It may feel like you're reaching kind of like a culminating point, a culminating moment, 6th of April, 3 days before, 3 days after, in terms of your sense of self and your identity and also your life direction, based on how this is impacted by a significant relationship in your life. So you might see yourself in a new light, or you might see yourself in terms of what you have become and how you have grown into the person that you're now, based on how your relationship sector has evolved, at least in the past 6 months. You may strike an agreement to work with someone around this time. You might also feel like the world is watching you and the world is kind of like putting the spotlight on you based on what is happening in your relationship sector. Once again, you could also take a very significant decision connected with your relationship sector around this time, and you do seem to feel quite at peace with it. I want to say that you seem to have some sort of an epiphany as to how you can solve a crisis in your relationship sector. You could also reach an agreement with a partner when it comes to shared assets, shared resources, money that you kind of like pool together, that you have in common, assets that you have in common. Someone could also help you sort out some tax related issue around this time. You could also feel like it's easy to appease someone that you're in a relationship with, business wise or life wise. It may feel like it's easy to appease someone and kind of like give them something that's important to them, even if that means making a compromise on a personal level. But again, you do seem to be at peace with it overall. Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. This full moon on the 6th of April, 3 days before, 3 days after, is activating your axis of work and service, and also what's happening behind the scenes. I do feel like this is a time to rest and to take it easy and to slow down and to say, okay, I need to take some time off. The full moon is actually very strongly activating your 12th house, and the 12th house is the house of taking some time off or slowing down. Something could come to a close in terms of your work. You may decide to maybe quit a job, or there could be announcements that someone is leaving your work, your team. Venus at the time of this full moon is nicely aspecting Neptune in your 5th house. I think you're very happy with the decisions that you're taking around this time connected with work, regardless of whether you're taking some time off, regardless of whether you're slowing down or taking the foot off the pedal, regardless of whether this full moon does bring with it an announcement that someone is leaving. It's like, yeah, I can work with this, and this is actually going to make... It feels like this is going to make your work more enjoyable. I would strongly recommend also focusing on your mental health around this time, and maybe realizing that you can count on your partner. If you are not in a relationship, you can count on someone that really cares for you. And it could be like a close person in your life. It could be an advisor. It could be a therapist. It could be a counselor. It does feel like someone has the ear to listen and can bring you kind of like to a place of stability and groundedness emotionally around this time. For those of you who have any sort of spiritual preoccupations, it can also feel like a very powerful time in terms of an aha moment from a spiritual perspective, where you realize how you've been getting in your own way, especially when it comes to the area of relationships, I'd say. Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. 6th of April, 3 days before, 3 days after. This full moon is putting the spotlight on your friendship sector, goals for the future. You do seem to be very socially active around this time. You could get together with friends. It could be like a very enjoyable time of socializing, of feeling surrounded by your people, I'd say. You could also have a very important group event that you attend connected with your work, and I do recommend going to it if you're invited, because it may result in some very exciting work-related opportunities. So socializing for networking purposes or socializing with people in your industry is likely to pay off. You could also present something in a group environment around this time to people who are interested in your work, and it does seem like it's landing very, very well. It does seem like it is very, very well received. It also feels like you are completing maybe an important goal connected with your work around this time, and you're very proud of yourself, Sagittarians. Do I like this for you? Of course I do. Of course I do. Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. This full moon on the 6th of April is activating your career sector. It does feel like you are reaching a peak career-wise. Somehow look back at what was going on career-wise 6 months ago, around the 25th of September, because this full moon could put the spotlight on similar themes that you're dealing with. It feels like you are applauded and you are feeling special in a professional setup. If you are not working, then you could really feel appreciated and applauded and special in a public kind of like setup. So when you are out into the world, when you contribute to society in some shape or form, you could also be feeling very proud and very appreciated around this time in the public sphere for the way you have maybe raised your children, or for something connected with kids. This could be a very important moment in time career-wise, because you realize what makes you happy, and based off of that, you could be taking some important decisions. Overall, it does feel like a very enjoyable, I want to say, full moon. You may communicate something to a boss, or a boss might have something big to communicate to you, but it feels like it is once again something that brings a sense of fulfillment, I'd say. It is a peak career-wise. I want to say, even though it is a peak, it may feel like you are also looking at what you have accomplished career-wise and saying, yes, I did this, and I've got nothing left to prove. Some of you might also go public with a relationship around this time. Maybe make an announcement regarding your romantic life, Capricorns. Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. Are you likely to enjoy this full moon? Yes, because Libra trines Aquarius. This full moon is probably going to put the spotlight on your academic life and also on traveling. You could be traveling around this time, and if you are traveling, it's probably very enjoyable. You could be traveling with family members or to see family members. You could be planning a significant trip with family members. You could also have some really good news to give to your family, connected with your studies, connected with academia, connected with your educational path. Very good news I see here for Aquarius risings, especially connected with visas, green cards, residency, stuff like that. I know, like, the green card is the way that it's called in the United States. It does feel like finally something that will offer more stability at home, connected with foreign lands and foreign countries, or maybe connected with the judicial system, the legal system. It is materializing, it is crystallizing in your life. You could also be signing some important papers legally, connected with a property, or connected with your family somehow. That's very, very possible. On a more symbolic level, this full moon could also, through your interaction with someone else, it could also help you find peace spiritually when it comes to a matter connected with parents and your past and your roots and your home. I like it. Pisces suns and Pisces risings. This full moon is activating your financial axis, so 6th of April, 3 days before, 3 days after. You seem to be paying off debts, taxes around this time. Your partner could be doing the same thing. You could also be reaching some sort of an agreement, financial agreement, maybe with a business partner to collaborate. You could be having an important conversation also with your life partner about how money will be spent moving forward. You could also be receiving a gift from someone around this time, or very good news connected with taxes or inheritance, or a lump sum of money, maybe like a commission or a bonus that you could get. Auspicious news connected with investments around this time, even if they don't necessarily go up straight away. Something does seem to be on the horizon that gives you hope. You could also decide to cash in on something investment-wise, and you might feel like, yep, this is good. I've made a profit. This could also be a time when you feel like you are solving a communicational crisis, I'd say, my dear Pisces. Maybe something that did involve money, but also maybe something that involved the butting of heads over differing values in your relationship with someone else. I'm also liking the fact that you seem to feel very confident in your way of thinking around this time, and in expressing what is important to you in a relationship with someone else. And this sort of like confidence and honesty is really contributing to finding a way to move forward in this partnership. I also see you unburdening yourself in a way of something that might have been eating you up a little bit on the inside from an emotional perspective. And when I say unburdening yourself, you could be unburdening yourself by talking about it. And it may feel like it no longer has any power over you. And that is your full moon update, folks. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sharing, for those of you who are going to share their experiences in the comments. Remember that if you want to work with me, you can find me on my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. I'm currently taking bookings for client consultations for the second half of May, because I am booked up until that point. Why would you talk to an astrologer? Why would you need a personal consultation? Well, for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, in order to understand your soul's intentions better, what you're here to experience, to learn, what are your, let's say, skills, values, beliefs, maybe limiting beliefs, patterns that you're here to work through, to better understand your karmic evolutionary path, to understand what is likely to help you fulfill your mission and purpose in this lifetime. Also, astrology is probably, and maybe I'm biased because obviously I'm an astrologer, probably it's one of the absolute best tools to help us better make use of and understand the timeline of our life. So what certain life chapters are about, how to work with the energies rather than against them, how to align ourselves with the cosmic flow of things. Remember, as above, so below. And when we go with the flow rather than against it, well, we've got much greater chances of success. You can also find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @ruxunbelievable. @ruxunbelievable in one word. And that's where I post more regular kind of like daily updates on transits, but also updates from my life. Thank you once again for tuning in. I know the light has been a little bit weird today, but hey, at least it's sunny right now when I'm posting this. So from darkness to light. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.